and a warm welcome to this special edition of Euromaxx. All this week we are out and about here in Europe to meet celebrities from different cultural fields, and they're helping us to put together these special shows. Today, Haute Cuisine is on the menu, and our very special guest is Tim Raue, one of the best chefs worldwide. And his restaurant in Berlin, near the famous Checkpoint Charlie, is our first venue on the show, and well, it ranks among the top 50 restaurants worldwide.
Wow, yeah, to be honest, yeah, it's the most important award I ever got, and we're so proud of, because people from around the world are traveling just having a plate of food here.
Yeah, you were born in Berlin, you grew up here, but if you're cooking, your cuisine has often, well, lots of Asian influences. Why that?
Totally. The only thing what I'm missing is a bit the outside, looking more Asian than I am, but on my palate and the way of cooking, I'm totally Asian. I mix the Thai flavors, I use Chinese skills, and at least the Japanese purism. And out of these three main issues, we're creating our own dishes. We're creating our own culinary world.
A German chef who loves to create Asian dishes, but there is much more to find out about Tim Raue, as you can see in our first report.
Creative moments in the kitchen. This is what it looks like when Tim Raue creates a new dish. He develops about 10 to 20 of them per year. It always takes some practice until he's 100% satisfied with the taste and consistency.
Shall we throw in some Thai chilies? I think we should try. We've got a few and we can see whether the taste will seep through. Otherwise, it's really nice. One of the greatest mysteries in a kitchen is how to create new dishes. And how many can you create in a year? To be honest, at the beginning of my career, I created 40 or 50 dishes a year. But now I'm lucky if I manage 20. Some years I've only created 10. There is more and more pressure.
And this is how the culinary creations are served. The dishes at Tim Raue's restaurant are inspired by Asian cuisine, and there's always an element of surprise. Truffled veal fillet crossed with candied apples, or raspberries paired with roses and shiso are just two of his creations. The restaurant has received 2 Michelin stars, and in June 2018 it shot from place 48 to 37 on the list of the world's best 50 restaurants. Tim Raue is from Berlin's Kreuzberg district and was once in a street gang, but that is long forgotten. These days, the celebrated gourmet chef is as likely to be seen speaking at international industry events or appearing in TV cooking shows. He's also written several cookbooks. Tim Raue is always on the go. He lends his name to French cuisine at the Brasserie Colette, which also has branches outside Berlin. The star chef constantly has to make sure that the quality is top-notch in all of his restaurants.
I would almost add basil at this point, Thai basil, or perhaps thyme is enough.
As a chef, it's hard to climb higher than Tim Raue on the career ladder. But this Berliner is always keen to outdo himself. He knows there's still room for more.
Tim Raue, you come from a humble background and now you're a star chef. That must have been a long journey. Can you tell us more?
It was a long journey, but thankful these days I'm just waking up in the morning and I do the business I have to do, because I'm operating now 12 restaurants. And so I'm not thinking what was in the past or what will be in the future. It's just daily business.
Okay, you say you have 12 restaurants. Be honest, how much time do you actually spend cooking?
Cooking is 50% of my job these days, but I'm creating all the dishes which will be served in all the 12 restaurants. And to be honest, really cooking, I'm only doing here at the main restaurant because they need me to be in the kitchen. They need me to lead the flavors in the dishes, because cooking, you know, is a craftsman's work on one side, but it's also a bit of art. And the art I see in creating these flavor worlds on the palate. And this is really subjective, and it's only me who has really an idea of a dish, how it has to taste.
Yeah, being a good cook is not enough to achieve star status. You also need really good ingredients. What are your criteria when it comes to choosing them?
It is one of the hardest jobs we have to get these days. We have lots of guests coming from around the world to visit us, but the most challenging things these days is staff, to get well-trained staff who's really highly motivated to work with us. And the other one is, since years, to get the best ingredients and to source them. We're using like 1.5 to 2 hours per day, each day, to looking for where we get them. And because we're cooking that Asian way, we're importing stuff from Japan, from China, from Hong Kong, and also from Thailand, where I started collaborating with farms 50 years ago. So they send us twice per week a lot of fruits, veggies, and herbs.
And you're also using fermented foods like, well, tempeh, which is from Indonesia, or the Japanese miso. If you're thinking about what that, our next report will fill you in on the details.
And now we leave Tim Raue's restaurant and Checkpoint Charlie, the famous border crossing before the fall of the Berlin Wall, to check out one of his favorite suppliers.
In his Berlin workshop, Marco Shimizu has specialized in the production of Japanese pastes like miso. He's perfected the art of fermentation, a centuries-old technique in which food is left to ferment in airtight containers by adding bacteria or fungi. The process can take years. For more than a decade, the Japanese-born entrepreneur has been a fan of fermented foods.
What's special about fermentation is that on the one hand it's naturally healthy, but on the other you can use the process to create many new flavorings. So it's something you can use to create totally new things. It's a type of tool and a natural flavor enhancer.
There's a veritable trend for rediscovering old traditions. Food blogs explain how they work, and top chefs use fermented ingredients for their experimental creations. The best-known fermented foods include sauerkraut and pickles. Fermentation is a process used in kitchens around the world. Kimchi, pickled white cabbage, is a staple in Korea and has been on UNESCO's Intangible World Heritage List since 2013.
What people like about fermentation is that it's a natural process. There are no added preservatives or industrial manufacturing. It's really handmade. And you can do it yourself at home.
Which is where Marco Shimizu began fermenting. He can make much larger portions in his store. Today he's preparing 10 kilos of miso. He evenly distributes Japanese koji, fungus, over boiled rice. Before adding the final ingredient, the mixture has to be put in a special place.
This is my koji sauna. I built it myself so you can adjust the temperature and the humidity. Koji fungus needs to have a certain humidity and temperature or it will perish.
The rice sprinkled with koji fungus spends 2 days in the sauna at 30 degrees Celsius. The cooked beans are the only ingredient still missing to finish the miso paste. But first the beans have to be put through a meat grinder. Only then will they mix well with the rice. Then the whole mixture will spend an entire year fermenting in a wooden barrel.
I try to do different things with my fermented foods. It would be boring to always do the same. Here I have a miso bread fermented as miso. And over there I have a red beet miso. So you can make a variety of things.
When it comes to fermenting, having a good imagination is an asset. There are few limits to this conservation method, but you do need a lot of patience.
In the meantime, we have arrived in Mimi, and I have a glass of miso in my hand, but fermented foods might sound a bit off-putting for some people, so why do you find them so fascinating?
It is not food as you can eat it like directly like in a dish, but what Marcus is doing here is originally Japanese product, but produced here in Berlin with local ingredients sometimes, but mainly he's doing an amazing soy sauce. His miso paste is self-made, so it's not an industrial product. And it is really hard to get these level of foods from Japan imported to Germany. So we're absolutely glad having him here. And he's producing just a small amount of his stuff. And, you know, it's really rare to get. And also he's absolutely Japanese. He's just half German, half Japanese. But he's like a Japanese, so he's really relaxed. And if I talk to him and say, you know, we need 20 kilos of that miso paste, he said, yes, Tim, but you know, it needs a longer time. So I come down, you know, handling with him.
Okay, be honest, do you do the cooking at home too?
No. No. Home is home, you know, it's no business at all. And also I see myself these days as a chef, as a restaurateur, and the third part, really interesting, to be a guest. And so I love to go out in restaurants and be treated as a guest. And this is something which I take back then in my restaurant. So if I get a really warm welcome on one place, that is something that really inspires me to go back and to motivate my staff.
But what does a star chef like to eat after a long day's work?
As you can see on my shape, I love everything what is deep fried. So I'm addicted to, and I need to go to Chinese places where they do the Cantonese barbecue stuff. So crispy pork belly is to die for me.
Really?
Absolutely. Number one. And Thai food. Originally Thai food. We have a lot of Thai people in the west part of Berlin, and I love the dishes. It's the only Thai wording I can. I can order my pet pat ki mao and stuff like that.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and tastes much better.
Oh.
if it's not me who is cooking it.
Okay, I'll have to try that out. Now, for many people, a good meal is usually enjoyed with a good wine. Do you agree that meat, for example, should be served with red wine and fish with white wine?
To be honest, there's only one thing I love more than cooking, and it's wine. Wine to me is so much, I don't have really a heritage or roots family-wise, so I love to drink old and ripe wines, really long-aged ones like from the 1920s or 30s, and I'm spending most of my money for wine. I don't drive a car, my apartment is rental, but I drink wine like this is all to me, and it's Burgundy, Bordeaux, a bit of Germany, the white ones, but it must be old and ripe. And to pair wine and food, I think this is one of the nicest things. It's like, you know, if you're single, it's okay, but if you get a couple, there's two making one big thing, and that's also with food and wine. If it comes together, it makes one great experience.
You said Bordeaux. Well, Bordeaux is not only the wine, it's also the French city, and well, it even has its own museum dedicated to it. Here's more.
Wine is Bordeaux's #1 export. The city in the southwest of France has flourished for centuries thanks to the trade. And wine is very much a part of life here. Expert Vi Nguyen teaches locals and tourists more about the region's wines.
In people's minds, both in France and abroad, the name Bordeaux is seen as a mark of quality. You immediately think of grand old chateaux and vineyards. People come here especially for the wine. But of course, there's also the local expertise.
Every year, Bordeaux's vineyards produce over 5.5 million hectolitres of red, white and fortified wines. Some of the very best come from the Château Haute-Bailly estate. Véronique Zanders is in charge here and one of only a few top women vintners. She says there are good reasons why Bordeaux wines are known internationally.
The Bordeaux vineyards are located on the 45th parallel. It's said that all the best wine-growing areas are located at this latitude. There are clearly geological and meteorological conditions that allow for these great vineyards.
La Cité du Vin, or City of Wine, is in the middle of the city of Bordeaux on the banks of the Garonne River. The building cost some 80 million euros. Inside, visitors can find out everything there is to know about wine.
We're not a museum. We don't have a collection of our own. The name Cité doesn't tell you what's to be seen here. You can tell that by the visitors. They discover this place. Its exterior piques their curiosity and the interior is full of surprises.
The exhibits are interactive and digital. Touching is not prohibited, but actively encouraged. It's all about the senses, rather than facts. In the bar on the top floor of the Cité du Vin, visitors can sample different wines from all over the world, while they enjoy a panoramic view of Bordeaux.
Back in Berlin. Tim Raue has invited me to join him in his favorite wine shop in the German capital.
And now we have come to one of the top addresses here in Berlin when it comes to finding a good wine, La Vinothèque du Sommelier. Well, Tim Raue, what other wines do you like besides Bordeaux?
Mostly, and we have a bottle of one of these beautiful red Burgundies. This is something what I really love. That is, you know, you say Burgundy is touching your soul. It's
really?
like having silk and fruity flavors from cherries on the palate. And with these Merci Chambertin, you can have it at least.
Sounds great. Well, one newspaper once described you as, listen, a wine freak who even has glasses sent to his hotel room. Is that true?
I travel with my glasses, yeah, that's
really?
true. Yeah, absolutely. Because every great wine needs a great glass.
Okay. Well, does a good bottle of wine always have to be expensive?
Yes. To be honest, it has to be aged. And this is the reason why we're here, because here you find wines from the 30s, 40s, 50s, wines
pretty
which
old,
are
yeah.
pretty old. And this is like, they're mature and they're ripe to drink for. And this you don't get it like for $5.
But as well as being a lover of good food and fine wines, you also have another very different passion, art. And you once said that art is not made for the sake of art, but to make people happy. How does art make you happy?
It gives me a lot of inspiration, because sometimes, you know, if I'm with a dish, it can be like 2 weeks that we can finalize the dish. And then I'm around in my head always looking for a solution which I cannot find. And if I go out and watching like to painted art, that inspires me and makes the brain that kind of free, that if I go back to the plate and the dish, I view on a completely new perspective. And that gives me the ability to create that dish or find the solution and finalize it. And that makes me happy. So I love art.
I know that you also love works by Leonhard Grau.
Yeah.
He comes from Krefeld in Western Germany, but now he's living here in Berlin. And in his mid-30s, he's already making a name for himself. And we met up with him to find out more.
A painting by Leonhard Grau, right next to a genuine Gerhard Richter, whose works command some of the highest prizes anywhere, and a work by Thomas Schütte. Leonhard Grau lives and works in Berlin, where he initially studied architecture. Then he decided to dedicate himself to his true calling and studied art. He finished the College of Fine Arts as a master's student and stayed on in the German capital.
I see Berlin as an inspirational city, especially for artists. So many fellow artists are living and working here, and you can sense new developments right off. You're live on site, and I wouldn't want to do without that.
Leonhard Grau has his studio in the north of Berlin. This is where he creates his colorful pictures, generally painting with acrylics and oils on canvas. For his paintings, he takes inspiration from the old masters.
The fact that my subjects are often so similar probably has to do with this whole universe of Baroque and Rococo and my fascination with it. I like to let myself be seduced by it.
He often paints portraits of heroes and leaders. He pays tribute to the pathos and decadence of past eras through his intensive use of color. Lennart Grau has developed a technique all his own. He pours the paints right onto the canvas to create thick layers that merge into one another. It takes him an average of 1 month to complete a painting. Unless he's fighting a deadline, he'll take the time to work out new ideas. Grau is grateful he's able to live from his art.
I see every little step as a highlight, and I'm happy for everything that comes my way beyond that. I have a constant fear of stagnation and that someday the interest in these works will disappear. Just the fact that this hasn't happened is enough of a highlight for me.
Buyers for the artist's works come from all over the world. Some are prominent art lovers. His works have also appeared in national and international exhibitions, such as the Berlin Me Collector's Room.
Seen from outside, I'm sure it looks as if I've made it into a certain league. But the question is, does it really change anything? I'm sure we'll find out if it does. But judging by the feedback I've been getting, it does seem to be something very advantageous for me.
But he has no intention of letting circumstances like these put him under any pressure.
I used to have ambitions, like wanting to have works hanging in certain galleries or museums. But now that just makes me nervous, so I try to work more with blinders on and concentrate on what I've got in front of me. And I think that takes me in the right direction all by itself.
Lennart Grau, an artist to watch out for.
And now our tour of Berlin with star chef Tim Raue leads us to the Mitte district, where you can find street art on every corner, as well as a large number of upmarket galleries.
Yeah, maybe it will soon hang in Tim Raue's home, or perhaps in one of your restaurants?
No, at home. I have a Lennart Grau and I'm absolutely proud of it. I was waiting like 2 years to get one. And yeah, and I'm totally excited now, and he is in a bright space in my home.
Yeah, Lennart Grau has already exhibited here at Circle Culture. At the moment, yeah, we can see that here works by Katrin Fredriks from Iceland are currently hanging here. I think they are more abstract. Is that also a style that appeals to you?
There's, it totally reminds me about a dish which comes up in the middle of 80s. It was one of the first German dishes who really was copied worldwide. It was called soup of fruits. And there was a guy who made different purees of fruit, put it in one plate, and just went across was like a pan. And if I saw that pieces of art, it's really similar to that.
So you also love art, but only as an admirer, or have you ever tried your hand at it yourself?
No, the only kind of art I'm doing is pairing flavors to create great dishes. In the earlier years on the streets, I tried to make a bit of graffiti, but to be honest, it was looking so bad that I will never call myself an artist. And there was nothing what I would like to express with graffiti. With cooking, I really express myself.
Well, okay, today you are using spices instead of color. So do you have an all-time favorite spice?
There are so many which I have to use, but if you don't get me coriander, no ginger, no lime, no soy sauce, I don't know how to cook, so it's not a favorite. You know, it's like with dishes, where all the time we're in the way to create new dishes, we're in progress. And I'm still in love with the dish. We're hardly working now. And if the newest is coming up, the latest is going by.
Tim Raue, star chef from Berlin. Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's show. It was really a great tour through the German capital. Thank you for sharing your favorite locations with us.
And maybe, you know, I can show the people my word. It's like what I love, where they can go if they come and visit Berlin.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about Tim Raue or other guests in our Euromaxx editions, just go to our webpage, dw.com/lifestyle, or join us on Facebook. Well, we're running out of time now, so until then, thanks for watching and hopefully see you soon. Bye.
Tschüss.
That's German.
Total.